If you do not want to end up in a nursing home, start working. That is what my son told me, said with such coldness, without blinking. I looked at him and smiled. Yet it was not a joyful smile, but the kind one wears just before dying inside or awakening with fury. I stood up slowly, saying nothing. I went to my room, grabbed my small blue suitcase, the very same I had used when I left the house where I raised that man, and began packing the few things I had left: clothes, a couple of books, an album with old photographs, and a letter. An hour later, the quiet was shattered by the roar of a powerful engine. A shiny black luxury car stopped outside the gate. From the window, I saw Jenna, my daughter-in-law, peering out with a furrowed brow. Ryan approached the fence and shouted, "What on earth is that car doing here?" I did not answer, but merely took my suitcase. I closed the small room's door where I lived and walked out with my head held high. But to understand how we got here, you must travel back many years with me to a time when I was not a burden, but a mother willing to do anything for her son. Ryan was my only child. His father, Julian, died when he was barely 3 years old in a traffic accident on a wet road. The police told me it was instant. I did not feel that way. It took me more than 10 years to breathe without pain again. From that moment on, my entire life revolved around Ryan. I worked she was a teacher at a public school. In the afternoons, she gave private lessons, and on weekends, she sold used books at the neighborhood fair, doing everything so he would never lack anything, and he never did. I enrolled him in good schools, helped him with his homework, and stayed up late sewing costumes for his performances. I sold my engagement ring to pay for a computer course when he was 12 years old. I taught him to be responsible, respectful, to say thank you and please. I taught him to love books and to stand up for those who had no voice. I believed I was raising a noble man. I did not realize I was raising my own tormentor. Ryan was a sweet child. When he was little, he wrote me letters on notebook paper. "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a house with a garden. You will have a hammock and many cats." I cried reading them, thinking all this effort was worth it. My son was going to be a good man, but time goes by and with it, promises fade away. The first crack appeared when Ryan met Jenna. She was 24 years old, worked at a bank, and was very ambitious, too much so. He brought her home on a Sunday to introduce her to me. I remember that day as if it were yesterday. "Mom, this is Jenna," he said with a proud smile. "My girlfriend." She looked me up and down. She wore huge dark glasses as if she were on a red carpet. "Hello," she said without smiling. "Nice to meet you." Her handshake was as cold as her gaze. That day I knew something was going to happen. Change and changed. After getting married, Ryan began to visit me less often. He no longer came on Sundays for lunch. He would say he was very busy with work. When he called, it was only about practical matters. "Do you have the birth certificate? Where did you put my high school papers?" One day I was offered early retirement. My health was fragile and I felt it was time to rest. I shared the news with excitement. Ryan barely looked up from his phone. "Well, if that makes you happy," he said. There were no congratulations or words of appreciation, just indifference. But the worst was yet to come. When Lucy was born, I knew she would be my last refuge. My granddaughter was a ray of sunshine amid so much darkness. At first, Jenna didn't want me to take care of her. "I prefer she stays with someone younger," she said. Besides, Rose wasn't used to modern babies as if they were appliances. However, over time, they accepted that I cared for her some afternoons. Those were the best moments of my week. I told her stories. We played hide and seek. I taught her to write her name in cursive. "Grandma, why do you live in such a tiny house?" she asked me once. "Because it is fair, my love. I don't want to bother anyone." "But you don't bother. I like being with you." That phrase stayed etched in my heart. My relationship with Jenna started to deteriorate. She began avoiding me, speaking in ironic whispers. "Rose, can you please not leave your things everywhere?" Laundry piled up in the washroom. "Rose, please close the back door. Cold air is coming in." "Do you have to make noise right now? This was my home." Or at least it had been. They had remodeled it, yes, but the land still belonged to me. Even so, I felt like an outsider, like an unwelcome presence. When I tried to discuss it with Ryan, he just said, "Jenna is very sensitive, and sometimes you do not help." That was the first time I realized I was utterly alone. One day, Ryan called me into the living room. I had just finished washing Lucy's clothes. My hands were damp. "Mom, we need to talk." I sat down at the edge of the couch. Jenna stood nearby with arms crossed. "This can no longer continue," he said. "We are tight on expenses. We cannot support another person." "Another person?" I asked. "I am your mother, Ryan." "I know, but you are an adult and must make your own decisions. If you do not want to go to a nursing home, you will need to work." A lump formed in my throat, not because of the suggestion, but because of its coldness, the complete lack of affection, memory, or gratitude. "This is not fair," I whispered. "Life is not fair, Mom," Jenna answered. "Welcome to the club." Ryan stood up. "We will discuss this. Take your time, but we cannot continue like this." I stayed seated, listening to the wall clock ticking away. Tick-tock, tick-tock. And I knew something inside me had just shattered. What they did not know was that I was not as alone as they believed. Months earlier, I had received a letter that changed my life. It was Esteban's story, a youthful romance I never forgot. He reached out to me through an old friend. He wrote to me gently, asking if I still thought about him. And yes, I thought about him more than I should have. We began talking on the phone, then moved on to video calls. He lived in the South, owned fields and vineyards, and had been widowed for 6 years. "I never stopped loving you, Rose," he told me one night. "And if you allow me, I want to see you again." That phrase felt like a hand extended in the middle of an abyss. When Ryan told me he had to leave for work, I had already made my decision. I was not going to beg, shout, or cause a scene. I just smiled. I went to my room, opened my suitcase, packed my things, and looked at myself in the mirror. I had wrinkles, yes. My hair was more white than black. But I also had something I had lost years ago: courage. Then came the roar of the car, the footsteps of Ryan and Jenna approaching the window, and the car horn beep. A tense silence. A quick glance from Lucy as she ran in from the kitchen. "Grandma, that car came for you." I bent down, hugged her tightly, and whispered in her ear, "Never let anyone tell you how much you are worth, not even your own blood." I stood up and walked toward the front door. I approached the door without looking back. Ryan stood by the gate with a furrowed brow. Jenna had her arms crossed and lips pressed together as if she had bitten into a lemon. Lucy watched me from the hallway with her big, honey-colored eyes. I did not say anything. I did not have to. They did not deserve my words. I pushed open the iron gate and felt the cold wind hit my face. The car was there, a black Mercedes-Benz shining like the night, its engine still running as if it knew I would not change my mind. The back door opened, and there he was, Esteban. "Good afternoon, Rose," he said as he stepped down gracefully. "I was waiting for you." I saw Jenna furrow her brow even more, as if she could not understand what was happening. Ryan took a step forward. "Who is this guy?" he asked, raising his voice. Esteban extended his hand to me, and I took it. "Esteban Rivas," he answered without looking at my son. "I am a friend of your mother's, and I have come to get her. She no longer has any reason to be here." The word mother seemed to hit Ryan like a slap. He blinked as if trying to grasp what he was seeing, and then spoke to me. "What are you doing? Are you just leaving with a stranger?" I looked at him, and for the first time I spoke. "I am not leaving with a stranger. I am leaving with someone who sees me, who listens to me, who values me. Something you stopped doing a long time ago." Jenna let out a sarcastic laugh. "Oh my God, this is like a soap opera. Suddenly you go with some rich old man now? Seriously." Esteban smiled politely, but his eyes held a cold firmness. "Madam, you started this soap opera when you chose to treat this woman as if she was trash. Today marks the end of the first act. Get ready for what's coming next." Ryan helped me get into the car. I closed the door, and through the window I saw Lucy running toward the gate. "Grandma, wait!" she called out. Esteban stopped the car before moving. I rolled down the window. Lucy put her hand in her pocket and handed me a folded piece of paper. "This is a drawing for you," she said. I took the paper, hugged it close, and whispered, "Never change, my love. You really have a heart." The car started moving, and I didn't look back. The first few streets passed quietly. I watched the roads that had seen me dragging grocery bags, entering through the back door like a worker, and holding back insults to avoid causing trouble. Every tree and every pole had witnessed my silence, and now they would also witness my leaving. Esteban drove smoothly, as if time was endless. "Are you okay?" he asked, eyes never leaving the road. I nodded, although I wasn't sure if it was the truth. "I don't know if I'm okay, but I'm awake, and that alone is a miracle." He smiled and took my hand gently. "Do you want to go straight home, or would you like to stop for something? Got time?" "I have all the life I need," I laughed. After so long, I laughed for real, and that's when I knew. I was no longer the woman who walked with her head down. I had changed, or rather, I was becoming who I was before the fear took over. We stopped at a little cafe on the roadside, cozy with big windows and the smell of fresh bread. We sat down next to the window. Esteban. He ordered 2 coffees with milk and crescent-shaped pastries. "Do you remember the first time we went to a place like this?" he asked me. Of course, I replied that I had tea with lemon, and you said that was not something happy people did. He laughed, and you responded, "Then I am an unhappy person, proud of it." We both chuckled, but then silence returned. Esteban looked me straight in the eyes. "Rose, have you been hurt badly?" I swallowed hard, feeling something inside me break. I couldn't tell if it was pain or just abandonment. It had been years of small things, looks, remarks, closed doors, favors turning into debts. I was dimming Esteban, like a candle burning down unnoticed. "I noticed," he said, and that made me cry. I cried for all the things I kept silent. For every Sunday I ate alone. For every time I pretended not to hear Jenna calling me a burden. For every hug Lucy tried to give me but her mother prevented. For every promise Ryan forgot. Esteban said nothing, just held my hand, and then I understood that sometimes silence does not hurt. Sometimes it heals. Hours later, we arrived at his home. And when I say home, I do not mean a grand mansion with marble columns. It was a countryside house, spacious and rustic, surrounded by vineyards sparkling in the evening sun. It had a porch with hammocks, huge windows, and a library that seemed like something from a dream. "This is your room," he said, opening a door. It was cozy, with white sheets and a hand-woven rug. On the light table, there was a bouquet of lilacs. "Lilac flowers?" I asked. "Your favorites," Ryan replied. I did not know what to say. I simply ran my fingers over the petals. "You deserve this, Rose. You deserve everything that was once denied to you." That night, we had dinner together. Warm soup, homemade bread, and a red wine that Ryan had made in his own cellar. We talked about books, old movies, and our youth. Then, at one point, he looked at me seriously. "Do you know what hurt me the most? That you never tried to find me. 40 years passed and I never heard from you." I admitted, I was afraid. Then life went on. I devoted myself so much to others that I forgot about myself. He nodded. But now you are here, and I promise that as long as I have breath, no one will ever make you feel invisible again." The days that followed were a balm for my soul. For the first time in decades, no one yelled at me. No one criticized how I hung the clothes, for leaving the light on, or for reading late into the night. I was free. And in that freedom, I began to remember who I was. I started writing again. Little stories, poems, scattered thoughts. Ryan encouraged me, read my work, asked me questions. Sometimes he woke me with coffee in bed, other times with wildflowers. But as everything in life, the past does not always stay behind us. One afternoon, while reading in the gallery, my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" Silence. Then a voice I recognized instantly. "Mom, it's me, Julian." I froze. "What do you want? Can we talk, please?" "I'm not sure if I have anything to tell you. Please, this is important." I sighed. There was something in his voice that unsettled me. It was not arrogance. It sounded fragile. "Tell me." Jenna left. She walked away. She said she could not stand all of this, that I was not a real man, and she left me the house, and I had to sit down with Lucy. The world seemed to spin backwards. What does that have to do with me? I do not know what to do. Lucy cries all day, asking about you. I cannot handle everything. I feel lost. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathe. "I need you, Mom." I remained silent. I had waited to hear those words for years, but now it did not hurt anymore. It was only a rusty chain trying to break free again, and then I said, "I needed you too, Ryan, for years, and you were not there. I know I was wrong. I was a fool. Do not tell me. Show me. Because if you want me back, it will not be in that little room or with your contempt." Ryan sobbed. I had not heard him cry since he was 6 years old. "Can I come see you?" I stayed silent for a moment and said something I never thought I would say. "Yes, but do not come alone. Who do you want to bring?" "Have Lucy come." "She has the right to see me." "You will have to earn that." The morning sun illuminated the vineyards, but my heart was torn between calm and unease. I had agreed to see Ryan, not because I trusted him, but because my granddaughter Lucy deserved to know I had never abandoned her. Esteban watched me from the porch while sipping his coffee. "Are you sure you want to see them?" I nodded, though inside I was shaking, not because of him, but because of her. Esteban set down his cup, stepped closer, and gently touched my cheek. "Whatever happens, I will be here. She is not alone anymore, Rose." I took a deep breath and waited quietly. At 11:30, the familiar family car that had seen me silent so many times entered through the wooden gate. Ryan got out first. He was no longer the proud and arrogant man from weeks ago. His dark circles revealed a sleepless night, and his wrinkled shirt seemed to hang loosely from his frame. Lucy came out after him. She ran towards me without hesitation. "Grandma!" I embraced her with a strength I did not know I had. Her hair smelled like almond soap, and her body trembled with excitement. "I thought you wouldn't want to see me anymore," she whispered. "Never, my love. Never think that again." Ryan stood a few steps behind us, unsure what to do with his hands or his guilt. "Can we talk?" he finally asked. I looked at him steadily. 10 minutes only." We sat on the porch. Esteban quietly went inside with Lucy and offered her juice and cookies. Through the window, I saw her telling him something, moving her hands like wings. My granddaughter was happy, and that gave me strength. Ryan sat opposite me, restless as if the chair was burning him. "I do not know where to begin," he said. "Then do not start. Just be honest." He swallowed hard. "You were right about everything. I failed you. I allowed things that I should never have allowed. I let Jenna humiliate you, make you feel like a burden, and I ignored it." I focused on my work, on my daughter, and I pushed you aside. No, you pushed me aside. There is a difference. He lowered his gaze. He looked defeated. I know I have no excuses, but I am here because I am alone, and because only now do I understand what you have done for me all these years. And only now did you realize that. Yes, when I found myself washing dishes, cooking, searching for clothes for Lucy, taking her to school, and dealing with her crying, I understood that it was you doing all of that, and I never appreciated it. Silence. Sorry, Mom. I kept staring at him. It was my son, the one who told me I was his queen when he had a fever, and I read him stories. At the same time, he was the man who allowed his wife to treat me worse than a servant. Both truths existed side by side, and they hurt. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I can listen to you. That is already a start. We spent the afternoon in the garden. Lucy played with Esteban, who was teaching her how to plant a small vine. They laughed as if they had known each other their whole lives. Ryan watched me quietly. He loves you, doesn't he? Much more than you ever allowed yourself to love him. And I am rediscovering him, but yes, I do love him. Ryan nodded. His pride seemed to soften with every word. I'm not sure if I have the right to ask this, but could you stay with Lucy for a few days? Why? I got a temporary job in another city for just a few weeks. I have no one to leave her with, and she wants to stay with you. I turned toward my granddaughter. Her eyes sparkled with hope. May I stay, Grandma? Can I be with you and Esteban? Just then, Esteban appeared as if the moment had called him. It would be an honor, but only if your grandmother agrees. I sighed. All right, but under my conditions. No surprise guests, no uninvited interruptions. Ryan nodded instantly. Thank you, truly? Thank you. Before leaving, he turned back one last time. I know I have much to prove. I just want you to know I'm ready to make things right. I watched him get into the car and drive away down the dirt road. Part of me felt relief, another part nostalgia, but none of it guilt. The days with Lucy were like a soothing balm. We had breakfast together, strolled through the vineyards and baked cookies. Esteban became her quiet hero. He told her stories, listened without rush, and taught her how to identify stars at night. One afternoon, while Lucy was drawing on the porch, Esteban hugged me from behind. I never imagined having this, he whispered. Having what? I asked. Peace, family, a real life. I turned to look at him. His eyes were shimmering. Thank you, Rose, for coming back to me. I didn't come back. I found myself again, and you were there. But calmness, as always, comes at a cost. One evening, while we were having dinner, Lucy received a message on her tablet. It's my mom, she said without looking up. Do you want to know if I'm okay? Then she said something strange. What? I asked. That Dad is seeing a woman, that now he has someone to leave me with, that maybe soon he won't need me anymore. Esteban and I, our eyes met. How do you feel about this? I asked. Sad, but at the same time, I do not want to return. Here I feel happy. I embraced her. You will always have a place here, my love. Always. Yet something sparked within me. Jenna. That woman could not let go of control even from afar. And if Ryan was starting to rebuild his life, who could guarantee he would not repeat his mistakes? That night, I sat down at Esteban's desk, took paper and pencil, and wrote a letter. Dear Rose, for years you allowed others to decide your worth, to label you, to hide you. But you are not a shadow. You are light. And although sometimes it shakes, the light always returns. Never forget who you are. You are beginning a new life, and this time you are not alone. I folded the paper, placed it in a small box alongside a picture of me with Lucy. That would be my reminder, my anchor. 2 days later, Ryan came back. He was smiling with a bouquet of flowers, but something in his eyes warned me. "I have news," he said. "Good news." "Oh yes, they offered me a permanent position, well paid, stable, but it requires me to move." "Where to?" "To another province, to Mendoza." And Lucy lowered her gaze. She hesitated. "She can come with me, or if you want, you could come too." The proposal struck me like a slap. "Are you saying I should leave my life, my home, to live again under your wing?" "Not under my wing. As family, together. You can help me with Lucy. You can have your own space. It would not be like before." I stared at him for a long moment and then realized that he had not changed completely. He still believed that I existed to serve, to fill emptiness, to extinguish fires that he could not handle. I stood up. "Thank you for the offer, but no. And Lucy, she can choose. But I will not let myself be extinguished again." That night, while preparing dinner for Lucy, I sat beside her. "Your dad wants to move and wants to take you with him. And you? I am staying because this is my life now, but you have the right to decide." Lucy cried and hugged me tightly. "I want to stay with you." "Are you sure?" "Yes. Here I feel loved. There I would feel forgotten." At that moment, Esteban arrived carrying fresh bread. "Is there room for one more?" Lucy smiled, and for the first time I knew everything was okay, that we had broken the cycle. The morning began with birdsong and the smell of coffee Esteban brewed. Lucy was still asleep in the room we had decorated together, full of soft colors and storybooks. It felt like a dream to have created that refuge, that home where love was not an obligation, but a choice. Yet I knew all too well that dreams could be delicate. Esteban approached holding 2 cups, his expression making me frown. "This came for you," he said, handing me a beige envelope without a sender. I took it cautiously. It was not unusual for a nearby winery to send invitations to tastings or events, but when I opened it, I realized it was something else. It was a formal, detached, and precise letter. "This is to notify you that Mrs. Jenna Salas has initiated legal proceedings seeking full custody of the child Lucy Salas. She claims improper retention, emotional manipulation, and an environment unsuitable for child development." I felt as if the ground was collapsing beneath me. "What is this?" Esteban asked, alarmed by my pale face. "Jenna is accusing me of having abducted my granddaughter." Esteban read the letter with a furrowed brow. His jaw tightened. "This is a dirty move, but I am not surprised. I knew something like this could happen." "And now what do I do?" I inquired, feeling vulnerable for the first time in weeks. "We should call someone. I know a retired lawyer who is excellent. His name is Bruno Ferrer. I will tell him everything." That very afternoon, Bruno arrived at the farm. A man in his early 60s with a calm voice, steady hands, and sharp eyes. He listened to my story without interruption, took notes, observed, and analyzed every detail. "They have a child together, but the mother is using the legal system to manipulate the situation," he said finally. "This will not be easy. However, we have grounds to respond." "Can she take Lucy away from me?" I asked with a trembling voice. Bruno took a deep breath. "Only if Lucy wants to go with her or if it is proven that you are unfit. From what I see, there is nothing here that indicates danger. On the contrary, Jenna might be lying. She has done so before, and we will tell the truth and prove it." I felt comforted. For the first time, someone spoke to me about justice instead of resignation. That night, the 3 of us had dinner together. Lucy sensed something different in the atmosphere. "Did something happen?" she asked, moving her noodles with the fork. I looked into her eyes. I did not want to lie to her, but I also did not want to burden her with worries that were not hers to bear. Your mother wants to see you and she is a little upset because you did not return with her." Lucy lowered her gaze. She was angry because she wanted to stay with me. "Maybe so, but it is not your fault. You have the right to choose where you feel happy." She got up, hugged me tightly, and whispered, "I do not want to be taken away from here." And my heart shattered. Esteban took her to bed. When he returned, he found me smoking a cigarette on the porch after years without doing so. "I do not want to lose everything again," I told him. "You will not lose anything. Now you have someone supporting you and you are not alone, Rose. This time, we will fight together." Days passed and more documents arrived. Jenna hired a fierce lawyer, the kind who senses fear. The accusations were harsh: manipulation, parental alienation, even negligence. Bruno prepared a flawless defense with photos, testimonies, and school reports. But above all, he requested something crucial: that Lucy be able to speak with an independent psychologist. She would be heard, and that could change everything. Ryan, meanwhile, seemed caught in the middle. He sent me a brief message. "I do not agree with what?" Jenna was involved, but I did not want any more fights. I wished we could solve this without hurting Lucy. I ignored it because I had no room left inside me for half-hearted feelings. Several days later, the electric gate rang. Esteban looked through the camera and frowned. It was Jenna. What? She was coming alone, carrying the stance of a dethroned queen. I straightened my hair and looked at myself in the mirror. It was not for her. It was for me. I wanted her to see me strong and whole. I went out to meet her. Jenna got out of a brand new car wearing dark sunglasses and a perfume that filled the air. She held an envelope and wore a fake smile. Rose said, as if we were old friends, "What a pleasure to see you looking so well." "What do you want?" Jenna replied. "I have come to give you a chance to sort this out like adults, like civilized women." Civilized? I said, "You are accusing me of kidnapping my granddaughter." She answered, "I am protecting my daughter. You are not her mother. You are nobody legally. You can play the good grandmother for a few days, but Lucy will return to me, whether you want it or not." Lucy has already chosen, and that eats you up, does it not? Jenna approached, lowering her voice. "You are a lonely old woman, a burden. That estate will fall apart, and when Esteban gets tired of playing happy family, you will be left with nothing. Lucy does not belong to you, and I swear on my life I will take her away, even if I have to destroy you along the way." Her eyes were pure venom. I asked without blinking, "Are you done?" She smiled. "We will see each other in court," and then she left. That night, I cried silently in the darkness. I was cooking with my hands trembling, not out of fear, but rage. How could he have dared to do such a thing? How was it possible that I had been pushed aside, forgotten, and now accused of trying to hold on to love by force? Ryan found me there with tears falling onto the countertop. "You cannot let him win, not again," he said as he held my face. "I do not want to fight. I want to live." Then he added, "We will fight to live. There is no other way." And he was right. The following days became a whirlwind of hearings, visits from social workers, and psychological interviews. Lucy responded with unexpected maturity. She declared firmly that she felt cared for, loved, and respected in our home. While in her former home, no one listened to her, and her mother was always absent or in a bad mood. The psychologist wrote a report. Clearly, the minor expresses a strong emotional bond with her grandmother, Rose Salas, with whom she feels protected, understood, and happy. No emotional manipulation was detected, and it was recommended to maintain the stability of the current environment. When Bruno read that to me, I could not help but cry. It was the first time a legal document confirmed what I already knew. Lucy was not being held against her will. She was safe. A few days later, we were called to the courthouse. Jenna arrived flawless with her lawyer and her marble mask. I came with Bruno, Ryan, and a racing heart. Lucy did not attend on the judge's recommendation. The judge read the reports and listened to the lawyers. The tension was palpable. It was unmistakable. Mrs. Jenna Salas announced, "In the end, we found no grounds to remove the shared custody or to question Mrs. Rose Salas's suitability as the temporary guardian. The child clearly expressed her wishes. Therefore, custody will remain unchanged, and scheduled visitations will be arranged for you." Jenna clenched her teeth. Her lawyer placed a hand on her arm, trying to soothe her. "This is not over," she told me as she walked by. "You have no idea what I am capable of." I looked at her with a calmness she could not comprehend. "Yes, I know, and that is why I am not afraid of you." That evening, we shared a special dinner. Esteban prepared his renowned meatloaf. Lucy made an impromptu cake using cream and cookies. We laughed as if we had defeated a dragon. In a way, we had. After putting Lucy to bed, Esteban and I sat on the porch. "Today you are a lioness," he said. "Today I felt alive for the first time in a long while." He took my hand and kissed my fingers. "I love you, Rose, just as you are, and I want everything with you." I looked at him. My chest filled with a new feeling, not gratitude or dependence, but love, free, chosen. I had never imagined love could feel this way after so many years and so many wounds. With Esteban, it was not just companionship, it was freedom. It was knowing someone truly saw me. For weeks, we lived in a tense calm. Jenna's threat seemed to have vanished after her defeat in court. Yet deep inside, I knew it was far from over. Exhausted. That woman never knew defeat. She only knew how to hide and strike again. And that strike did not take long to come. It all began with small signs. One day, the principal of Lucy's school called me. "Mrs. Salas," she said with a worried tone, "we received a request to change Lucy's legal guardian. It says you are no longer authorized to pick her up." "What?" The request was signed by Jenna Salas, but lacked any legal backing. "Of course, we will not allow it, but I wanted to warn you because this is serious." I hung up with trembling hands. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling utterly unprotected. Seeing me like that, Esteban knelt in front of me. It was her again. I nodded. She is trying to remove me from Lucy's life little by little behind the scenes. She will not succeed, but we must remain vigilant. That night I spoke to Bruno. He confirmed my suspicions. Jenna was appealing the ruling, but that was not all. She had filed false accusations of psychological abuse and social isolation. Most disturbing, she had hired a private investigator to follow me. There were photos, videos, even screen captures from my social media. This was no longer just a legal matter, Bruno said. It is a personal attack. She wants to destroy you. Can I do anything about it? I asked. Yes, we can fight back, but we must go all in. I sighed, looked out the window. Lucy was playing with Esteban in the yard, blowing soap bubbles. Her laughter was so pure, it hurt to imagine it silenced by her mother's shadow. Then I said, "So we are going to fight for her, for me." Ryan nodded in agreement, and this time we were ready to confront her openly. The following days turned into a whirlwind. We gathered all kinds of evidence, including calls, audio recordings, and messages. Jenna had threatened to kick me out if necessary. She yelled at Lucy over the phone, telling her not to be ungrateful. She even lied about her job, faking income to avoid paying child support. Ryan prepared a formal complaint accusing her of defamation, legal harassment, and emotional damage. But just when we thought we were in control, something happened that froze me in place. One night, Lucy did not come back from school. The teacher insisted that her mother had come to pick her up because it was her scheduled visit, but that visit was not authorized. I panicked immediately. I called the school, Ryan, and Esteban. No one had a clue about her whereabouts. I dialed Jenna's number only to find it switched off. Those 3 hours felt like hell until I received one message. Lucy is fine. She just needed to be with her mother. I will notify you when I return her. The message gave no indication of where they were or when she would come back. Esteban held me tightly while I shook like a leaf. We contacted the police and filed a report. That night I could not sleep, only cried. It was as if my soul was being torn from my body. The next morning, Jenna appeared at the property holding Lucy's hand. The girl's eyes were swollen from crying. Jenna sneered. Here she is. She was fine. She just needed to be with me, not you. You are her mother, Rose. You cannot forbid me from seeing her. You had no right. That was kidnapping. Oh, come on, always so dramatic. Look at her. She is alive. No. Lucy slipped from her grasp and ran toward me. Grandma. I hugged her tightly. Never before had I felt such relief. We will see this through to the end, I told Jenna with a trembling but determined voice. Do it, and we will see who stands victorious in the end. Then she left. Bruno launched the entire legal process. He requested a temporary restraining order. The judge approved it. Jenna could not approach within 300 meters without a court order, but that only made her angrier. A week later, someone smashed the windows of Esteban's car. Days after that, we found animal droppings at the entrance to the property. One night, we heard a loud crash. Someone had thrown stones onto the roof. Lucy woke up screaming. Esteban grabbed a bat and rushed outside. He found no one. We reported everything. Yet the authorities said the usual things. Without evidence, there is little they can do. I no longer slept. I lived in constant alert. Esteban suggested something drastic. Rose, let's move. What? I have a house in San Rafael farther away. We could start over there without the burden of this madness. Quitting this is not surrendering. It is protecting yourself and protecting Lucy. I thought about it for days, but every corner of that property held memories. Every tree and every tile was part of my identity. I could not let Jenna steal even that from me. No, if I leave, she wins, and I will not allow that. Esteban nodded. He did not pressure me, but I understood that fatigue was catching up with him as well. One afternoon, while I was shopping in town, a woman approached me in the supermarket line. You are Lucy's grandmother, right? Yes. I heard your daughter-in-law accused you of mistreatment. They say the girl does not attend school. Is that true? I felt a hollow in my stomach. That is not true. Well, you know how people are. Some should never raise children. I left without buying anything. The slander campaign had begun. Neighbors looked at me suspiciously. Some withdrew their invitations. Others stopped greeting me. They were isolating me, and that hurt more than Ryan's insults. One night, after putting Lucy to bed, I went out to the garden. I looked at the sky, searching for answers. Why is this happening to me? I whispered into the air. I only wanted to care for my granddaughter, to love without fear. Is that too much to ask? Esteban came out and hugged me from behind. You are not alone, even if the world screams otherwise. I am with you, and if she does not stop, if she continues until we break, then we will resist until our last breath. A few days later, we received the final summons. Jenna had managed to secure an extraordinary hearing. She was going to present new evidence to request exclusive and permanent custody. This was her last strike. The trial would take place in a week, and I needed to prepare. Bruno gave me some advice. Do not just tell your side. Show your life. Show who you truly are. Let the judge see that you are not a threat, but rather a pillar of support. That evening I wrote a letter. I was unsure if it would be read, yet it helped me calm my spirit. My name is Rose Salas. I am 66 years old. I am not flawless. I have made mistakes, but I would never stop loving those who need me. I am not fighting out of pride. I am fighting for a bond life gave me, and one I refuse to give up to anyone's whim. I tucked the letter in my bag and decided it would be my shield. Lucy got frightened when she heard about the trial. "I will have to leave," she said. "No, my love, this time we are going to win." I looked at her with a broken heart and added, "And if we do not, then we will go wherever together, but always together." She smiled and hugged me tightly. "You are my home, grandmother." Those words meant more than 1,000 verdicts. The day of the trial arrived with a complex mix of emotions that words cannot fully describe: fear, hope, anger, and something deeper. I could not tell if it was courage or just exhaustion. I dressed modestly, styled my hair with care, and before leaving, I embraced Lucy with all my strength. "I love you, grandmother," she said, looking at me with those big eyes. "I love you more, my queen. No matter what happens, nothing will separate us. Do you understand?" She nodded, tears silently falling. Esteban held my hand until we reached the car. Bruno awaited us at the courthouse door. "Today, we are not only going to defend you," he said. "We are going to reveal who Jenna really is." We walked into the courtroom. There she was, flawless, wearing a tight black dress, her hair, collected, flawless makeup, a mask. She looked at us as though we were insects. I took a deep breath. I was not going to break. The judge, an elderly man with a stern expression, opened the hearing. "We are gathered to address the appeal filed by Mrs. Jenna Salas, who requests sole custody of her daughter Lucy and the cancellation of the temporary guardianship granted to Mrs. Rose Salas." Everything was at stake. Jenna spoke first. "Your Honor, my mother-in-law has emotionally manipulated my daughter, distanced her from me, interfered with her upbringing, prevented contact with my environment, and created an authority figure that she does not deserve. Lucy needs a mother, not an obsessive and possessive grandmother." Those words pained me. More so, they hurt when spoken in a shaky voice, as if she truly believed she was right. She presented videos taken out of context. One where Lucy told me she did not want to see her mother, another where I called her my baby. Ryan stood up. "With all due respect, those clips do not demonstrate anything illegal or improper. Showing affection or honoring the wishes of a girl distressed by seeing her mother does not amount to alienation." The judge nodded without passing judgment. Then Ryan countered. He called Lucy's teacher to the stand. She testified that the girl had often come crying after visits with her mother, showing fear and once saying, "My mom yells at me." If I speak about my grandmother, Jenna denied everything, pretending to be outraged. Then a neighbor came forward, someone who had heard Jenna's screams while she was looking for the girl. An older, courageous woman. "This is not fair," said Rose. "She raised that child with love. That woman, the mother, only shows up to cause trouble." Afterward, Ryan requested to hear Lucy's testimony, which had been recorded by the court psychologist. The room fell silent. My grandmother takes care of me, reads me stories, hugs me when I feel scared. With my mom, I am frightened. I do not want to live with her. The words were gentle, yet their impact was overwhelming. Jenna turned pale. Ryan concluded firmly, "We are not asking to remove her mother's rights, but we do ask that the child's well-being be the priority, and that well-being is unquestionably with Rose." Finally, the judge allowed me to speak. I stood up holding the letter in my hand. "Your Honor, I did not come here to fight out of pride. I came because I could not stand by while a child was being taken away from her only safe haven." I read the entire letter. Every word emerged from the depths of my soul. I am not perfect, but I have given everything for Lucy. I have protected her with my body, my time, and my love. I am not asking for recognition, only that I be permitted to continue caring for her as she needs and as I need too. When I finished, the judge lowered his gaze. The room was silent. He sighed, paused for a long moment, and then spoke. This court rules that the custody, a temporary order was granted in favor of Mrs. Rose. The custody arrangement remained unchanged and became permanent. The biological mother would have supervised visitation rights and would need to begin therapy before requesting any future changes. I felt as if the world had stopped moving. Esteban squeezed my hand firmly. Bruno smiled while Jenna remained frozen, seeming unable to comprehend what had just occurred. The judge added, "This court also advises the plaintiff to refrain from baseless legal actions or defamation campaigns under the threat of more severe penalties." We had won. Outside the courthouse, Lucy was waiting for me alongside Esteban. When she saw me, she ran over with a huge smile. "Now we can leave." "Yes, my love. We are finally free." I embraced her tightly. I felt her heartbeat against mine and realized that whatever happened, nothing could sever that bond. Jenna came out minutes later and looked at me with pure hatred. "Enjoy your victory. It will not last." "This is not a victory," I said calmly. "This is justice." "This is far from over, old fool." "It is over, whether you accept it or not." She turned on her heel and stormed off with furious steps. I watched her disappear into the crowd. For the first time, I did not feel fear, but pity rather, because she had lost everything out of pride and did not know how to love. The next few days were marked by tense calm. I still kept looking over my shoulder. However, Esteban convinced me to install cameras around the property. We also hired an additional lawyer in case any unexpected issues arose. Slowly, the community began to come back closer. Some apologized, while others stayed silent, feeling ashamed. Yet I held no grudge and only wished to move forward. Lucy returned to her classes with happiness. She started drawing again, singing, playing without fear. I too found myself smiling again. Ryan and I spent long afternoons in the garden. We talked about life, the future, and the love that had arrived when we least expected it. One evening, as we watched the sunset, he took my hand. "I love you, Rose." And I replied, "I love you too. Will you marry me?" I looked at him, unbelieving. "Are you crazy?" "Yes, crazy for you." We laughed and I cried. I said yes. The wedding was a small gathering. Just a few close friends, Bruno and of course Lucy, who carried the rings and cried with emotion. I never imagined I would wear white again, but I did not do it out of tradition, rather as a symbol of rebirth. Inside me there were no ruins left, only seeds of something new. A few months later, a black truck stopped in front of the farmhouse. Lucy and I were planting flowers. Ryan was reading the newspaper on the porch. A man in a suit stepped out of the vehicle. "Mrs. Rose Salas?" "Yes, that is me." "I am from Horizonte Publishing. We have a proposal for you, editorial. We read your letter. The judge shared it with us at a legal forum. It touched us deeply. We would like to publish it, and if you agree, to accompany it with your full story." I was speechless. My story? Yes, we believe many women need to hear it. Reading it, realizing it was possible to endure, understanding they were not alone. Lucy squeezed my hand. Ryan approached with a smile. "What will you tell him?" I said yes because I was no longer afraid to reveal who I am. I accepted the publishing house's offer without fully knowing what I was getting into. I had never written anything longer than a shopping list before, but when I faced the blank notebook, the words started flowing as if they had been waiting for years to take a breath. The very first sentence I wrote was, "My name is Rose Salas. They called me old, a burden, told me to be silent, but one day I decided to rise. For weeks, each morning, I dedicated myself to writing, to remembering, to crying, to healing. Pain turned into paragraphs. Anger became chapters. Loneliness transformed into a voice. Bruno helped me organize the facts. Ryan patiently corrected my spelling mistakes endlessly. Sometimes Lucy would sit beside me and say, "Are you telling when you saved me, Grandma?" "Yes, dear, but I am also telling how you saved me." The book was published months later with a title that left no doubt: If You Do Not Want to Go to the E's, Nursing Home Stand Up. The cover showed a silhouette from behind holding a suitcase, standing before an open gate. I did not expect it to sell much. I thought only a few women in some neighborhood library would read it. Yet the unexpected happened. It went viral. Social media exploded with quotes from the book. Women from every generation began sharing their own experiences. Some sent me heartfelt letters. Others sent voice messages filled with tears. One woman even traveled from a distant province just to give me a hug. "Your story made me come back home," she told me. It pushed me to ask my mother for forgiveness. It opened my eyes to everything I had been avoiding. I could hardly believe it. One day, a television host called me, inviting me to join a live interview show. "We want you to share your story live. It is inspiring. You are transforming lives," she said. I hesitated. I was uncomfortable with being exposed like that. But Ryan insisted. "You have to go, Rose. Not for you, but for all those still silent." I went, entering the studio trembling. The lights, cameras, microphones overwhelmed me. But when the host greeted me warmly, something inside me settled. "Rose," she said, "thousands of women are watching now. What would you say to those living what you lived?" I paused a moment and then answered that they should never think they are alone. Never listen if someone tells them it is too late or they are worthless, because there is always a new day to begin again. Whether you are 60, 70, or 80 years old, it is never too late to rise up. The applause was instantaneous, and it was not for me, but for everyone. After the show, life transformed. I received invitations to give talks at community centers, radio interviews, and even a university asked me to speak. I was supposed to speak at an event about the rights of senior citizens, yet I remained unchanged. I kept waking up early to prepare breakfast for Lucy. I continued tending to my garden, watering the plants. I still sat down with Esteban to watch the sunset. One afternoon, while we sipped mate under the porch, he looked at me and said, "Do you realize what you have done?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "You transformed humiliation into dignity and sorrow into strength. Not everyone can do that, Rose." I replied, "I only did what any mother or grandmother would do." To which he responded, "Yes, but you also stood up for yourself, and that is even harder." Jenna stayed distant. She completed supervised visits with a cold and detached attitude. Slowly, Lucy began to speak to her without fear. I never spoke ill of her mother, never once, because I came to understand something profound. Hatred does not win. Love, even stronger, does. One day, Lucy asked me, "Did you forgive her, Grandma?" I paused for a moment. I do not know if I truly forgave her, but I no longer harbor hatred. That is the same thing. It is more than enough. Years later, the book was transformed into a stage play. I was invited to the premiere. The curtains rose, and I saw a white-haired actress portraying me, carrying the same suitcase and with the same trembling in her voice. Hearing my own words from someone else's lips brought me to tears. Esteban squeezed my hand. Lucy, now a teenager, hugged me tightly. "That is you, Grandma, the bravest of all." The play concluded with the actress opening the gate and stepping into an imaginary car. The audience gave a standing ovation. That moment was when I truly understood my story was no longer just mine alone. The final recognition came when I was awarded a medal for civic merit. During the speech, the mayor said, "Today we honor a woman who showed us that old age does not mean uselessness, that motherhood has no age limit, and that love triumphs over any sentence. I approached the microphone, no longer trembling. Thank you for this honor, but I want to say something more. When my son told me, if you do not want to go to the nursing home, go get a job, I did not realize he was giving me a chance, because sometimes what seems like the end is only the beginning. The crowd applauded warmly, but I looked up at the sky and thought of Jorge, wishing he could see me now, free, alive, reborn. Today, reflecting on the past, I do not see tragedy but a narrative of transformation. Lucy grew up surrounded by love and chose to study psychology. She says she wants to help other girls like herself. Esteban and I keep walking side by side, growing old hand in hand, laughing at our wrinkles and missteps. My home is filled with books, flowers, and visitors. Many women come to share their stories. Some bring me empanadas. Others just need someone to listen. I always listen carefully. Every time someone asks how it all started, I tell them the same thing. It began with a phrase, a humiliation, and then a change that reshaped everything. But also with a smile, with a suitcase and a car that arrived just in time. Because it was not luxury, it was not a new husband, it was not a book. It was choosing not to give up, not to surrender, not to believe what others say you are. Because the fire inside us does not extinguish with disdain, it ignites with determination. And if someone ever tells you that you are old, useless, or in the way, remember this. You are not what others claim. You are what you decide to become. And if they say, if you do not want to go to the nursing home, go to work, smile, stand up, open the gate, because maybe just there your new life awaits you. They say when one door closes, another opens. But what no one tells you is that sometimes you need the courage to walk through it alone, with your back straight, your suitcase trembling in your hand, your soul shattered yet willing to return and rebuild. I crossed that door, and on the other side, there were no easy promises, no immediate comfort. What I found was uncertainty, silence, and a freedom that scared me. Because yes, freedom can also frighten when you are not used to choosing for yourself. But I chose with every step, every tear, every written word. I chose to reconstruct myself. I chose to listen to my voice, the one I had silenced for decades. Today, I live in a modest yet cozy home with large windows letting in light as never before. Lucy is no longer a child. She's a bright, sensitive young woman with that blend of tenderness and strength that inspires me every day, the strength that only well-healed scars can leave. Esteban grows old with me. His presence is a sanctuary, not a lifesaver. I do not need him to rescue me, only to keep me company. And he does so every day with a calm smile and a silence that speaks louder than 1,000 speeches. Our routine is simple. We have breakfast watching the garden. Lucy sometimes joins us with her cup of tea, and we talk about ordinary things, books, flowers, and dreams. But sometimes, between one mate and another, the conversation turns deeper. "Grandma," she asked me one morning, "do you regret everything that happened?" I thought about replying yes, that I wished I had never suffered, that I hoped my son had not betrayed me, that I hoped Ryan were still alive. But lying to her would have stolen the truth. No, my dear, I do not regret it, because if none of it had happened, I would not be who I am today, and you might not be here with me. She smiled and hugged me without saying more because she understood. Over the years, I learned that life is not a straight line. It is a spiral. Sometimes you go up, sometimes down, and sometimes it feels like you are in the same place. But you are not the same. I am not the same woman who trembled at the sound of her son shouting, nor the one who lowered her head when her daughter-in-law humiliated her, nor the one who thought she had no place in the world. Now I am the woman who writes, who hugs, who listens, who guides. I am the grandmother who receives letters from other grandmothers, mothers, daughters, women, who tell me, "Thank you for sharing your story. You gave me courage through your story." And I tell them, the courage was already inside you. It just needed someone to remind you of it. Sometimes I wonder what happened to Ryan. I heard from others that he divorced Jenna, that he now lives alone in a small apartment and no longer keeps in touch with Lucy. I do not hate him. I do not wish him harm. But I also do not feel pity. Sometimes the harshest punishment is not prison or rejection, but having to live with the awareness of what you have done. I forgave him, not for his sake, but for mine, because I did not want to carry that burden, and because I realized that letting go is not giving up. It is freeing yourself. And that is what I did. I also learned to say no. No to demands that do not respect me. No to obligations that steal my peace. No to roles imposed on me. No to returning to what has already hurt me. Saying no is also an act of self-love. But most importantly, I learned to say yes. Yes to tenderness. Yes to new beginnings. Yes to trusting even when I have been disappointed. Yes to crazy projects. Yes to love in old age. Yes to myself. One day, while going through old boxes, I found a letter that Julian had written to me years before he passed away. I'd completely forgotten it. His handwriting was rushed, his way of speaking without beating around the bush. It said, "Rose, if you ever feel lonely, do not look outside. Look at yourself in the mirror. There you will find the bravest woman I have ever known." I cried like a child, not out of sadness, but out of gratitude, because I understood that even before I had realized it myself. If he had known, he would already see in me the strength that now blooms. Sometimes older women become invisible to the world, as if we no longer have anything to say, contribute, or live for. But that is not true. We are living libraries, we are roots, we are history and the future. Society made us believe that after a certain age, all that is left is to wait. Yet I say the opposite. After a certain age, everything becomes clearer, when you no longer need to prove anything, when the only thing that matters is to live honestly. Once, during a talk at a university, a student asked me, "What does dignity mean for you?" I smiled and answered, "It is being able to look at yourself in the mirror without lowering your gaze. It is not needing anyone's approval to know your worth. It is choosing yourself every day, even if no one else does." She stayed silent, nodded, and I knew she understood. If I had to give a message to every woman who hears my story, it would be this: do not wait for someone else to save you. Do not wait to be valued in order to value yourself. Do not wait for applause to stand up. Do it anyway. Do it trembling. Do it afraid, but do it. Because sometimes life begins exactly when you decide not to be the victim, but the author of your own story. And if one day you have to pack your bags, do not see it as an ending. It is only the prologue of everything you will write next. My name is Rose Salas. People told me my story had... It was over, and I proved to them that I was only just getting started.